My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. All right, the plain activity, which is stalking committed by the city of Ontario, which is in concert with the people of the state, and every level, every department, every function of the city of Ontario, every means of presence and activity by the city of Ontario is gang stalking as represented by the Ontario International Airport. And so to that end, the entity is stalking by planes, doing so at the early hour, as I captured at around 5:20 this morning. And what I want to hone in on is what the entity immediately engages in, which is a rapid increase, which is analyzed as a threat under the law. But this is a rapid increase of frequency with regard to these planes successively traveling across the city hall, across the senior center, across the senior citizen apartment complex, while I'm at the Ovid Family Community Library. The entity is engaged in what is referred to as patrolling. Okay, patrolling is repeatedly crossing path. Pacing is what I've referred to it, so that people understand what it is that I'm referring to. When you see somebody pacing, going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, that's pacing. The demon-possessed are pacing. Okay, they are a mentally ill population. The demon-possessed want to exist among us and monitor us, but they don't want you to be able to identify them. They also don't want you to be able to identify the clear, weird, and deranged behavior pattern that they are engaging in because they are monitoring.
So the objective in the engineer light is presence and noise. And typically that's coexisting with presence. Even if you have one that is silent, mute in the engineer light, which is relevant positioning, that will be light activity. Without the existence of audible activity, you will have some other method of audible activity. For example, you hear the entity stalking via Union Pacific. Okay, while the people of the state sit on the bench, they don't have to say anything. They're stalking in the path while the government is stalking by commercial plane or stalking by helicopter. The people of the state are typically appearing functional. They don't want you to recognize them as a demon. They also don't want you to recognize them as stalking you. But you are able to do that, and they are no longer ever capable, the government, because that's what the people of the state are. They're the government. The demons are not capable of falsely depicting your character as being mentally ill. To the contrary, the direct opposite is that the demon-possessed, the entity, is at risk of being committed and being put away as terrorists who are engaging in surveillance with the government, trying to murder people while they practice a conspicuous surveillance system, which is entirely threatening and psychologically harmful. What the entity is doing, however, this morning is they're engaging in patrolling. They're patrolling. That is accomplished by merely one plane after another as I capture it. It's also accomplished when you go back and forth in the opposite direction. It's accomplished also as a group when you have multiple people doing the same thing. So you'll have, to put it in terms of using planes, we'll use different companies, but it's the same thing with a person. You'll have Mary walk by, she's crossing path. Then you'll have Jane walk by, she's crossing path. That's pacing. Okay, it's the same demon, if you will. It's a spirit that's using different bodies, that's going back and forth around you. Now, you who are not spiritually aware of what's going on, you are now, are unaware of the fact that psychopaths, stalkers, are pacing around you. They're not just crazy because they're stalking. They're crazy the way in which they're stalking you. They're pacing. Okay, and they're pacing as a cooperative effort, and all the demons are in sync while they are surrounding, appearing like randomness, i.e. traffic, okay, i.e. pedestrians, i.e. what you see on a daily basis, going in and out to work, going to the library. You see a shopping plaza, people in the parking lot, people working inside of the stores, people coming in and out, going to parking lots, driving around looking for parking spaces, in the drive-through of the fast food restaurant. They're all demons, focused together. They don't have to talk to the target. They don't have to know the target. They don't have to acknowledge the target. They don't even have to look at the target. They are all in sync and they are all focused on. That focus is proven through that environment that is supernatural. It's no accident. It's no coincidence. They're also not ignorant that that environment is there. They are there in that environment to stalk one person. And how do you get an employee that's worked there for 15 years for gang stalking? As I just stated, that they are there for that purpose, because gang stalking is not based on chronology. And I will prosecute the 15-year employee at the facilitating venue because that fake son follows me to where that employee that's been there for 15 years works. And you will wind up in federal prison. Try me stalking with the police. You don't have an argument in court. And this is a mentally ill population who are at risk of being committed. And this is justice, because this is what this entity has been doing to innocent, perfectly sane, in fact, gifted American citizens. Okay? The entity is engaging in this while they are targeting American citizens, and that proof of targeting is not the direction that they're looking in, or the relationship with that target individual, or their facial expression, or even what they're wearing. Okay? Or even how many kids they have, or how attractive or unattractive they are, or how far away from the targeted individual they are at that venue. It's based on that specific environment. Everyone in that environment is gang stalking, and that is speaking to a government system, a government that has served to expose what is the reality of the beast system. Okay, the entity is engaging in what is the maintenance of a beast system for a very long time, and doing so under the noses of American citizens like myself who don't know. You're thinking that you actually have privacy. You're thinking that the Constitution matters to the government and to those that are benefiting from it, like the people of the state. Private citizens, just like you, in a substantially similar position, just like you. And that's exactly how they're supposed to appear. They are the government. The government is living all around you in that housing subdivision. The government is living all around you in that apartment complex. The government is all around you in that neighborhood, maintaining surveillance at that. And the government is demon possessed, riddled with demons. That's why the fake sun rises and sets over your home. That's why the government is stalking you conspicuously by maintaining helicopter activity over your home and commercial planes over your home. The entity is engaging in what is surveillance on the venue of the internet. All of this is criminal. It's public corruption. And it is public corruption that is relevant to the government that has conspired the murder of that targeted individual, which is absolutely provable and specific to an individual targeted distinct from that entity that is also shown to be targeting versus being the targeted individual. It's very clear. Okay, there's no ambiguity there. The entity is engaging in this P.O.C. on your devices, meaning you are under surveillance while you use your phone. You're under surveillance while you're in custody of a phone. It's a means of keeping you under surveillance, merely use of it, possession of it even if it's powered off. That's why the engineer light surrounds everything. Satan is monitoring everyone, everywhere, at all times. And these devices are provided to us. You purchase them with the ability to keep you under surveillance. Okay, this is the significance of the fake sun, the fake moon, the engineer light on a 24-hour basis. These communication devices are keeping us under surveillance. Okay, it's a means of the entity that's also not talking to you. They're on their cell phones. Not only are they engaging in the elements of monitoring, but literally that use of that device, even while they're silent and playing Candy Crusher, they're engaging in surveillance in that environment. And the entity is engaged in this P.O.C., in other words, with the people of the state. The people of the state are also on the venue of the internet, such as on YouTube, which is what I was documenting this morning when you can hear static. And so this is what I was referring to in my discussion that immediately prefaced this right here. And at the tail end of, it was over an hour and 16 minutes. But I trust that everything that is supposed to be exposed is exposed in a timely manner. Okay, this is not my case. This is the Lord God's case. And there are no accidents here. And so what needed to be exposed in that recording, you can hear it. What the static ended, and that was the gist of everything that I went into and expounded upon in that discussion. The entity, I just want you to hear the helicopter. Okay, you all know what his name is, this white male who is very heavily documented. His name is LORENZ. He is going to federal prison. This is a pattern of conduct. In addition to him going to prison, everyone that is stalking with the police, like the people of the state right now on a bicycle. The people of the state engaging in surveillance together. He's pacing on a bicycle in the engineer light. The demons are pacing by helicopter, and this is what they're doing while the entity is pacing in commercial planes. But nonetheless, the entity is engaged in stalking with the entity and is doing so while I am on my device. Is there something I can help you with?
Yes, you.
What?
How are you?
No, I'm busy right now. This is the entity that's seeking to interfere with documentation, and that's also the purpose behind stalking by helicopter as well. This is the entity that is, again, they're going to prison because of the barbarism behind psychopaths that literally in their minds, their sick, twisted minds, I'm going to stalk you like we're in a third world country by helicopter because I want you to stop talking about what you're discussing. All right. These are demons that have no manners. These are demons that are desperate. These are demons that have murdered a lot of people. That sort of mindset that lets you know what's wrong with Mike LORENZ and that agency. They're accustomed to engaging in violence. And it does not work with me. In fact, your prosecution is going to be that much more intense in court. But nonetheless, that's the purpose behind that. And then the third party that I document is approaching me, interfering with what it is that I'm discussing. So that's what that was. And it is not a distraction. It's the entity that's engaging in that ongoing P.O.C. And it's relevant to what it is that I'm documenting, psychopathic pacing by that airline and the ways in which the pacing is accomplished right in front of your face. That is the entity that is providing what is evidence of its mental illness, and it will be subject to mental examinations, as are the gang members of the terrorist agency. It's not a law enforcement agency. The terrorist agency that's in Ontario, California, under the corrupt and dangerous leadership of Mike LORENZ, that's going to be disbanded. And there is a body of evidence extending years that they're going to prison. I mean, years of stalking by this agency, and it is punctuated, underscored, highlighted by the stalking by helicopter, and based on that, because of that, every single last one that is in fact stalking as a pattern of conduct. Under Derek Williams and Mike LORENZ, they're going to prison. Every time they're doing that, as I remain subject to it, it's a threat to my life. and you are engaging in that, and there is no statute of limitations with regard to that threat. You are going to spend time in prison for that threat that you posed as a terrorist in the United States. Closeted terrorists that are wearing police uniforms, okay? And this mental illness is shared by them, including while they use helicopters to stalk one person. Now, what I was documenting this morning is the fact that the entity is engaged in surveillance with the people of the state, and the people of the state includes the social media platforms on the venue of the internet, where you are using your device, where you're merely in custody of your, but most of us are doing more than just being in custody of a communication device. You're always on it. Okay, you're on it, you use it, you get on social media with it. What you need to know is that you are under surveillance, and I've discussed this before. And this is proven through what the entity is committing right now. This morning it was ongoing plane activity, and right now it's helicopter activity. And this is serving to prosecute profusely YouTube. I'm going to prosecute these social media platforms that are engaging, sharing, and surveillance. While this unlawful threat is posed to me and YouTube removes my evidence off the internet, I'm going to federally prosecute these Google executives, and you will be as unheard of, as unprepared as you are, as much as it is unfathomable and you cannot believe it. It's as real as this helicopter activity that's putting you in prison. And there is a direct nexus between what's going on my device, the social media platform where you're making billions of dollars, you're engaged in surveillance unbeknownst to the American people and the users of that platform, while they are under surveillance, including by using your platform, and they're subject to the threat that I am documenting right now, which is stalking by murderers and kidnappers who are conspiring my murder by stalking in the helicopter in real time. Speaking to knowledge about what it is that I'm specifically discussing, speaking to knowledge about what it is that I'm doing on that platform that has not provided any disclaimer regarding surveillance that they are participating in with the U.S. government, which is proven as a pattern of conduct. This is relevant to YouTube committing things like interfering with an ongoing investigation, which is relevant to the protection of my own life, while I'm showing evidence of a fake sun, whether it's real or fake, is no interest to YouTube, okay? And the entity, which, by the way, has no basis under any circumstances to interfere with the federal case. I don't care that you don't like it that I used the platform that you created to do so. You're going to be on the video of the internet, you're going to make billions of dollars, and you will hereby be met with what are responsibilities under the law based on the undue influence and on the extraordinary amount of money that you make on the internet while you're keeping American citizens under surveillance, like what the city of Ontario has shown third parties like YouTube and Google to be engaged in. Okay. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean the direct and ongoing documented pattern. As I publish onto X, as I publish onto YouTube, I am simultaneously subject to what is stalking by helicopters over the top of my head, over the venue where I'm located, and doing so it's the same pattern with regard to me documenting the people of the state, not even on a social media platform. I am subject to stalking by helicopters, stalking by flying over the top of my head, flying over whatever venue I'm located. When I am subject to this pattern of conduct, and I am merely referring to, as I'm in the midst of documentation. All right, so this is the entity that's engaging in what is demonstrating direct, real-time knowledge, and that is implicating the use of my device. There's no warrant or probable cause for that. And the entity's doing it in the specific environment. And moreover, these social media platforms are implicated because of the specific environment, which exposes the fact that Google is under a fake sun, okay, where their headquarters is located. San Bruno, California, which is, again, one of the headquarters for YouTube/Google. And they're under a fake sun. Okay, it's not the same light source that's hovering where the demons of the city of Ontario have exposed the U.S. government for engaging in surveillance. Surveillance in every regard. Surveillance in your home, surveillance out in quote unquote public, surveillance in bathrooms, surveillance where you maintain a reasonable expectation of privacy, surveillance in the courtrooms, surveillance amongst the entity that are the people of the state. That is supposed to be the so-called private citizens. They are not private citizens, they are the entity. Okay, this is the entity that's engaging in surveillance on your devices, surveillance via your devices, surveillance on the venue of the internet, surveillance via these venues online, meaning Google is engaged in surveilling you, and Google is misrepresenting actually what it is engaging in because your information is not privately held, and when they provide what is information telling you, oh, well, there was for example, a mishap and your information was somehow accidentally inadvertently expose your private information about your accessing your Google Drive at X, Y, and Z time, and the documents and the content that you access. That's all private information, and they provide you what is, again, relevant to the illusion of privacy. Okay, so you will hear about these class action suits where they've stated, oh, well, your privacy was violated because we had, you know, a mishap with the Target credit cards and your information was given to Russia on accident, and there's a class action suit for any damages coming. Everybody's going to get $32 in response to that. This is an illusion. Everything about you, including in other parts of the world, we are all under surveillance on the internet as well. Your genitalia, okay? I just want to be clear. The United States government has betrayed the American people. Not only is it keeping us under surveillance, the American people are under surveillance by those that are outside of the United States. And it is accomplished by corrupt companies like YouTube, like Google, like Amazon Prime, FedEx, UPS, that likes to murder American citizens by flying into buildings and making it look like it's an accident. It is not. When you are gang stalking and engaging in surveillance at the same time, that is not an accident. It is not. The entity is engaging in this P.O.C. and they are maintaining what is ongoing surveillance. They're doing so while they are keeping you under surveillance online. And so this morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, over the senior citizen complex where they're stalking now at 10:41 p.m. 10:41 p.m. You're talking about the right to quiet enjoyment in a senior citizen apartment complex. You're talking about the zoning provisions. I documented this very heavily at Tracy Banks' apartment, Woodside Senior Apartments, another senior citizen complex. And guess what the Ontario International Airport and the Ontario Police Department were doing? Over a bunch of old people who have a right to quiet enjoyment. But those old people who are subservient to this beast system, who need the government to pay for their prescriptions, and they need the government to pay their rent, all right? And they don't want the government to they don't want to come up missing and it be claimed, well, you know, one of the liver spots got infected and it was just a mysterious death. It was just their time. They don't want something to happen to them. They are subservient to this beast system, in other words. All right, so they're engaging in the P.O.C. There are no complaints about the clear violation of quiet enjoyment, which they're entitled to under these HUD contracts, where the property and the residents are violating federal law while the government's engaging in surveillance. Surveillance proven by stalking by helicopters, stalking by commercial planes, where just like here at the Senior Center, at the Ontario Civic Center, there are no planes taken off that will result in any of this plane activity. And there is also a clear violation, the public nuisance maintained, while that entity is stalking me under the fake moon, during the day under the fake sun, doing so while Paul Leon, the Ontario City Hall right here, fully engaged in that pattern of conduct. The demon is in relevant position. The Ontario City Hall is right here. He's a terrorist, a domestic terrorist. He's an enemy that is also holding office. That is going to be dealt with. All of those contradictions. Terrorists belong in federal prison. Terrorists do not hold office in the United States. Okay? And terrorists are not going to hide and conceal their identity by going by pastor or mayor. Okay, these are terms that have definitions, they have meaning. And by virtue of the entity stalking by helicopter, like you're listening to after 10 o'clock at night, and stalking by commercial planes, this is the entity that is admittedly engaging in all of the above. This is the entity that is indeed engaging in what is surveillance on the venue of the internet, surveillance on your devices. And that's what's going on at 6 in the morning. The entity is stalking at 5:20 a.m. and then again at 5:38, approximately at around 5:38 a.m. So there's a span of time there. The entity maintaining ongoing psychopathic pacing, okay, just doing so, maintaining ongoing flight around me over here. However, it rapidly increases in frequency based on what it is that I'm doing that is under surveillance. And the entity is doing so based on being triggered by what it is that I'm doing. And what I am doing is I am consuming content that this entity, including the Ontario Police Department, who you just heard stalking me by helicopter again, and the Ontario International Airport, that is stalking, and they've been stalking with regard to every kidnapping that the Ontario Airport has, the Ontario Police Department have committed in concert with the gang members, the monitoring demons of the Ontario International Airport. In other words, they like to kidnap me and then fly over by commercial planes. These are demons that are engaging in ritualistic conduct, which is relevant to surveillance, stalking me, stalking in planes. And the demons engage in this conduct with the Ontario Police Department, and that you will see. throughout the history of this documentation. That airport's being shut down, and it's being shut down for a plethora of serious federal crimes as a terrorist. An airport that's committed kidnappings to obstruct justice, an airport that's engaged in sex trafficking while targeting as the state, an airport that's committed ongoing bathroom monitoring, vagina monitoring, the absurdity of the sexual violence that this airport is engaging in. This airport that's engaged in stalking, that's engaged in the abuse of the instrumentalities of interstate commerce in doing so. The federal RICO case with regard to representing yourself as an airport when you're actually engaged in criminal surveillance, that federal RICO case. These are all the bases and more for shutting, this airport is being shut down. Okay, and the commercial airlines, every single last airline is being federally prosecuted. Okay, the Ontario International Airport, as they share in stalking me and engaging in psychopathic pacing, they also share in every kidnapping that the Ontario Police Department engaged in, and that is also relevant to prosecuting any conspiracy because they are the city of Ontario together as well. They're the entity, but they literally, Lester Keys and Jason Knighton, you'll see in my documentation, the entity is stalking by planes over the 7-Eleven at 636 North Vine Avenue, hovering. And I took a picture of it because the entity is always stalking me throughout the city of Ontario. And as I'm documenting that pattern of conduct, then I'm physically attacked by Jason Knighton. And then he's helped by his partner, Lester Keys, while they are not engaging in even a traffic stop anymore, which is criminal summoning. But that was the guise for which they were stalking me with their lights on at that 7-Eleven while the entity is stalking by plane. So they're just standing around there with the demons who are the people of the state. Okay, traffic stop. Just like you see Jay Hernandez doing at, Hernandez at the Superior Grocer. That's criminal summoning. The police are stalking by engaging in what is the appearance of the execution of the duties of officers. They're engaging in traffic stops under the fake sun, under the fake moon, and engineer light, while the government is stalking by planes and helicopters. They're engaging in light activity, relevant positioning, loitering in your path, keeping you under surveillance, and communicating a threat because they do it with a gun on their waist. They do it with a badge on their chest. They do it while they are in these city-issued or county-issued vehicles. That is, again, representing yourself as though you have authority under the law when you don't. You don't. You do not. You absolutely do not. Because you are abusing authority does not make you authorized. That makes you an abuser of authority. But this is how they're engaging in this P.O.C., and this is a basis for unprecedented justice. Okay, it is terrorism, it's gang violence. And they're vying for murdering you. So they will commit traffic stops all around you. Okay, and this is the entity that's monitoring. These are demons that engage in that. And the ongoing stalking by the Ontario International Airport is the ongoing context regarding the cooperative criminal activity that the City of Ontario shares in. Okay, so every kidnapping, like I stated, the Ontario International Airport is going to be federally prosecuted for. That Ontario board, those old people sitting on that board, like Alan D. Wapner, sitting back making money, listing all of his accomplishments, all the boards and all the committees that he's a part of, like Omnitrans, that is also a very heavily documented terrorist. I'm going to federally prosecute this old man. All right, he's a gang stalking demon, a religious one. I believe he wears headdress as though he's a Jew. I just want you to know that state organized religion is very much engaging in what is the appearance of piety, while they are the exact same demonic spirit engaging in criminal activity moreover. And this one in particular likes to wear a headdress as though he is a holy man. And no holy man is going to be the president over this corrupt airport and all of the ongoing criminal activity that is underway. It's the same with the gang stalking mayor. You're supposedly a pastor, but you're looking at the corruption with these supposedly religious leaders, okay, who are leading in the community of demons that are engaging in surveillance. All right, the hypocrisy is unprecedented. Okay, the entity that's engaging in surveillance on your devices, however, this is what I'm getting to. The entity is taking a break, 5:20. All right, you've got about 18 minute break in between there. And that's the entity that is still stalking by plane, but they're just maintaining ongoing flights. This is what they do all night long. They don't take a break from stalking me. They're engaged in monitoring 24 hours a day. The moment that I open up YouTube, which is relevant, this is informative. As I access YouTube and the entity is stalking me in relevant position, you need to understand that that website that you access, that device that you're on, is being kept under surveillance, and the government has no warrant or probable cause to do that. Even if, I want to be clear, you're on probation. Let's say you're on probation. and you are under probation. You're under probation, and so you have a pre-existing relationship with law enforcement. You've violated the law in one way or another, and so they are under, to a certain degree, monitoring you and monitoring what it is that you're doing, making sure that you're on the right track, etc. That is not a basis for criminal surveillance. That's what this is. This is distinct. This is not that. This also does not give the government the right to monitor your device. And you're not going to say, oh, well, they're on probation, so we can do that. No, you cannot. No, they cannot. It is criminal under all circumstances. And also, you're treating the person that's on probation the same way that you're treating the licensed attorney who you don't have any relationship with whatsoever. So why are you monitoring their device? I'll wait. Because under the law, there's no basis for it. Okay, so the entity is engaging in this P.O.C. And I don't care if you're on probation. The government has no right to monitor your or our devices. It's not a part of your probation agreement that they are keeping your device under surveillance 24 hours a day, regardless of whether you're violating probation or not, regardless of the type of law that you broke or the terms of your probation. Regardless, they're just going to keep you under surveillance. No, that's unconstitutional. It is lacking in due process. This is not how the system operates. The entities engaging in what is surveillance. This is the beast system. I'm giving you a practical example about how this is unlawful in any way you want to twist it. It's unlawful. It's public corruption. Okay, so the entities engaging in surveillance on your devices. When you are logging onto a website, when you get on to YouTube, when you get on the internet, period, all of that is under surveillance. You don't have any privacy, ladies and gentlemen. When you get onto a website, when you get onto YouTube, you're under surveillance. Google is fully engaged in surveillance. So they are perpetuating an illusion when they are admitting to you that some of your information, your data use was breached, your privacy was breached, and some of your data use was inadvertently exposed, which could have caused some damage, and they are necessarily, under the law, they are, it's mandatory that they report that to you. That's perpetuating the illusion of privacy. You don't have any privacy, and all that you're doing on the internet is under surveillance. That's why when I am uploading video of the Ontario Police Department stalking me at the Ontario Museum of History and Arts by helicopter, the entity begins flying in circles over me at the same time. Okay, there's no coincidences when you're doing that under that which is not the natural environment. That's not even the sun that sits over me for 11 hours. Like, it rose and set in alignment to me at the same location. Yeah, there's no coincidence there. That's relevant to surveillance in relevant position, and surveillance that's also underway while you're using your device in that environment, and everyone around you is in relevant position. Yes, your devices are under surveillance, and the P.O.C. shows the pattern of the entity demonstrating specific real-time knowledge and a criminal purpose to obstruct justice, that is harass, terrorize, psychologically torture, sexually violate, physically batter, harm, threaten, expressly and impliedly. As I use my device, as I publish evidence, as I document, they've shown that they are indeed engaged in monitoring. They've shown that while they wage false and malicious assertions like what the Ovid Family Community Library has committed. Because unless you are looking through the walls of the bathroom stalls, you have no idea what it is that I'm doing, if I even have a device, if it's even out. And if you're minding your business in the bathroom, and I said it like that on purpose, if you're minding your business in the bathroom, in there minding your business, then what I'm doing with my phone, which again, on its surface, I'm using my phone looking at the floor. So what is it that you are even discussing while you're reaching? You're reaching. The fact that I'm in the bathroom, period, is not in and of itself a sexual violation. The people that state that are monitoring my vagina walk in and out, they pace in and out of the bathroom with their communication devices in hand. I document it all the time. And you don't see me demonstrating signs of paranoid schizophrenia. You're recording me? Are you recording me? Why are you recording me? Did you just record me? That's the entity that's speaking to knowledge about what it is that you're doing, because they are monitoring, first of all. So they know, and the entity does not want you to be documenting. This is an entity that's very delusional, not controlling anything, not controlling this prosecution either. You certainly aren't controlling anything when you continuously give me more evidence that you're stalking me by helicopter. Stalking by helicopter in particular is the formula that's going to put a lot of gang members in prison. You have an appetite for terrorism and psychological torture. You're going to prison. Right? And you're with the wrong gang members. Because everybody with the Ontario Police Department It's going to be under intense scrutiny. They're going to prison. I kid you not. They're going to prison. You like to stalk American citizens in helicopters? You're going to be put away, just like every other terrorist that would not be able to get away with that coming from some other part of the world. You're delusional. Get ready. You're going to prison. So the entities engaging in this P.O.C., and I just want to be clear, they're doing so pursuant to surveillance that's also underway on your devices. It's underway on the internet, and companies that are engaged in surveillance like Google, like YouTube, like Facebook, Meta, TikTok. Okay, I want to be clear, Instagram, these are headquartered in California. So just so that you know, the fake sun that's over headquarters for Meta. The entity, or all of their offices that they have wherever they're located in California, even if you are in another state, because of the asininity of stalking me under a fake sun, there is only one sun. It is very exclusive, and they kept the exclusive sun over Erica Lorraine Spencer in California. This is evidence that anybody in the U.S. could use. That's how bright they are, okay? Because there's only one sun. One. And my evidence shows that it doesn't ever move unless I move, and that's until the end of the day. And even when the demons cover it up, when they get a little apprehensive, when they start puckering up because they're scared, because the evidence is very damning, it's been damning. It's been damning for a very long time. They cover up that fake sun because this is not the natural weather. This isn't the natural environment. They cover up that fake sun, and where is it unveiled when it's not cloudy anymore? Right over me. Okay, this is the entity that's engaging in the identical pattern of conduct in the dark at nightfall, like you're witnessing. The fake sun documentation is an indicator. It's the ongoing context regarding surveillance that's underway 24 hours a day. Alrighty, so you are never getting out of the P.O.C. The entity made a very big mistake engaging in what is satanic. This is Satan's unintelligent imitation of God's creation. And that is a clear identification of the bullseye. The bullseye is everybody that's being prosecuted under that fake sun. All right, so I just want to be clear. This morning at 5:20, then 5:38 a.m., the entity's taking pauses like they are now, right? There's a little bit of a pause. The entity's listening to everything that I say. Based on what I say, they're, oh, she said this, we're going to go and hover in a plane. They're weirdos, they're freaks, they're losers. They are defendants that are waiting for convictions because this is a clear loss for the state. And it's the exposure of the beast system that's not, rumored or anything. This is the beast system. And it is going to now show itself, and the entity is going to show its true colors, right? Which is what it's been doing, but it's doing it to people that are suffering in silence, doing it to people that are suffering and no one believes them. It's doing it to people while this entity does not face justice, and they are perpetuating the illusion, perpetuating that this is nothing other than a conspiracy theory by criminal defamation. That is automatically, when you even discuss things like this, the entity is automatically writing off in ignorance, okay? In ignorance about people you don't know. You don't even know their experience, and you don't know, and also the absence of evidence, like my evidence also shows, the absence of this evidence that I have is not evidence of mental illness that you can speak on. And I mean even a medical professional. Just because they don't have the evidence of it doesn't mean it didn't happen, in other words. It very much is happening, and this is the P.O.C. speaking to that, and no one will ever be defamed again. And I would implore you to stop speaking ignorantly, stop cursing people about that which you do not know. And demons, I just want to be clear, that know very well, and this is their system to defame. You are chiming into that. You're serving Satan. So I'm not going to mince words with you. You are serving Satan. The beast system is to target people, paint them as crazy. That way nobody knows it's in existence. The beast system cannot secretly exist anymore. This is it. So the entities, it is particularly cruel and ignorant, and it's inhumane. So I want to make sure that that's out there, because that doesn't even make any logical sense. I can take myself out of this situation that I'm subject to and empathize with the target individual that doesn't have any evidence. I would not automatically jump to, oh, well, you're crazy. You don't even know what the entity is engaging in psychotic behavior. Who's going to believe what is a fake sun? Okay. That's not a reflection on the targeted individual. Okay, what is this engineer light? What is that? And how is the unsophisticated person that's subject to this gang violence by a demon-possessed population that is psychotic, pacing all around you? They are the crazy ones and they want to paint you as that. What is that? How do you describe that to somebody in a way in which you think is acceptable so that you don't call them crazy? Who do you think that you are? You ought to humble yourself. This is an attack of the enemy, a spiritual attack. And the reason why you need to humble yourself is because it could very well be you. The P.O.C is there for everyone to benefit from, if nothing else, to teach you to watch your speech. Watch how you are causing harm to others with the words that you speak. The primary foundation of the government's pattern of conduct is based on gossip. It's based on defamation. Them stalking you and then lying about your character. They're stalking you, they're doing psychotic things, and then they're saying, oh, they're crazy, they're hallucinating, they're paranoid, they're a drug addict, they're a sex offender, they're, harassing everybody, they're a disruption. That's all the government is doing. All right, and you are causing harm. And if someone is being targeted, and if the entity is seeking to drive someone to the point to where they are contemplating suicide, you are helping in that. You're helping in that. It's particularly cruel, and I find it to be unnatural. So you found yourself in case let me help you out, because perhaps you're unaware of the ways in which this world has caused you to be uncharacteristically comfortable with treating human beings as they are lesser than, or treating them as though they are out of their minds, as though they are not capable of having an experience that you are unaware of. And just because it sounds as though something that's unfamiliar to you, and even if you can't understand or you can't empathize with someone that may not be eloquent in describing that which is psychotic in the first place. All of this is about prejudging. All of it. It's all about judging. It's all about judging people. And this is what I understood at the outset. Okay, I am immediately putting myself in that other person's position, and I know what the government has done to other people that did not have the P.O.C. They didn't have the skill set. They don't have the advocacy skills. They don't have the language to put to this. I literally had to create it so that you would understand what I am talking about. Stop treating and speaking of people who are human beings with feelings that matter. You are not their creator. They are created by God just like you. And you're treating them as though they are lesser than so. And that's exactly what Satan wants you to do. He wants you out here being psychopaths, abusing each other, so that you think that everyone is like that and that abuse is normal and that you abuse them before they abuse you. You're perpetuating that harmful culture. Okay, and that's what's particularly disgusting about this discourse that I have witnessed about things like gang stalking. Even in the medical field, very highly irresponsible, but that's why they're doing so, because the medical field is engaged in gang stalking. So that's what that's about. It's serving what is literally their profit. They make money off of diagnosing you, off of committing you, off of taking on your case and meeting up with you, and they're targeting you. There's absolutely not. This is the abuse of that field. This is why you have that irresponsible discourse online about those that are just claiming that gang stalking is not real and it's a product of some trauma that you suffered, all manner of deceptive speech. Okay, and that's serving the beast system. Okay, that's serving this beast system. But nonetheless, the entity, I'm going to get off of that, but the entity is engaged in surveillance on your devices. And as you access, for example, YouTube is engaged in surveillance as well. And I have documented that, and that's what I wanted to get to this morning. As I am accessing it, like I stated, suddenly the entity goes from, maintaining that ongoing flight, like you haven't heard of flight. You haven't heard them stalking. They're still stalking. They do so inconspicuously. The entity is engaging in what is, and that's how you're going to be legally analyzed as well. You're going out of your way to scream out loud, I'm stalking you, I'm stalking you, I'm stalking you. And that's the government that's letting you know that they're stalking you while they are amplifying helicopter activity, amplifying sirens, amplifying plane activity, because they are perfectly capable of, and that's what they're doing now, is stalking, doing so inconspicuously, meaning no plane activity. flying at a higher elevation, at a distance where you can't see them. Okay, they do so conspicuously to communicate a threat, and it's noted. So this entity is engaging in that conduct as I am accessing YouTube. And what it is that I'm looking at on YouTube, where I am under surveillance and where YouTube is engaged in surveillance with the state as well, the content that I'm looking at is relevant to what this government is triggered by. This government that's engaged in unlawful criminal surveillance on my device, on the venue of the internet. And it's relevant to content that I was looking at regarding defamation by a TikTok tarot card reader or self-proclaimed tarot card reader. This is someone that engaged in defaming another person and defamed them, stating that they killed someone. They killed like 4 people actually, falsely accusing this other person of, and she claimed to be enlightened through tarot card reading through the spirit. And the spirit is what enlightened her regarding this person that she did not know. And she's putting it on the internet, on social media, particularly on the TikTok platform, that this person is responsible for the loss of 4 people's lives. She specifically murdered 4 people. Okay. And this is a case that was in the news and whatnot. And so I'm just paraphrasing what this story is about, because this is defamation by a tarot card reader. And then ultimately she was found guilty, liable. In civil court, it's liable. She was found liable and for $10 million. And I just want to be clear, the entity is monitoring me. So the entity is also monitoring what it is that I view online. And I documented this so many times inside of Tracy Banks' apartment, more than just at her apartment. But I documented it, and the reason why I'm referring to Tracy Banks is because Tracy Banks is on the internet defaming my character. Okay. And she's not the only one. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct regarding defaming my character, which is accusing me of criminal acts that I've never committed, even speaking of me and I don't even know you. Let me just say at the outset, that is evidence of surveillance by the U.S. government. Okay, for you to be targeting people, you don't even know me, that is evidence, that's relevant context regarding the fact of surveillance, which I am establishing by the P.O.C. The evidence, the reality, the proof of surveillance is the basis of prosecuting the social media platforms, maintaining the illusion of privacy, regarding your being defamed online, regarding your content being stolen and they don't know unless you report it, or they don't know unless somebody else exposes it. No, this is a system that is engaging in facilitating the theft of intellectual property, for example, on social media, where American citizens like myself are targeted. All right, you lose your life, you're defamed, you're kidnapped somewhere, and then you have some rapper stealing my songs, that the lyrics to my content, and you'll never know that because I'm a vegetable somewhere in a facility. But that's my song, that's my content. All right, this is the entity that is engaging in that type of fraudulent infringement type of behavior. They're demons that are monitoring, and they're engaging in ongoing surveillance, and they're stealing from those that they deem to be weaker. Okay, because you don't have any money, because you don't have any status, because nobody knows you. So that invention that you have, while you're under surveillance and you don't even know it, that invention that you have, they know about it. And you're going to become a target. And they're going to take it and use it and represent it as their own. That's just a practical example of all the damage that is coming forth from, or spilling out from, the, I would say, that which is incidental to criminal surveillance. All of the criminal acts that the entity is committing while keeping you under surveillance unbeknownst to you. All right, so the entity that is engaging in what is murdering people and then claiming that they committed suicide, and well, in the wake of their death, the book that they wrote, now their mother is going to champion publishing that book and get all the money from it, and she's going to be on the TV show talking about, you know, how their child that died right before they're about to publish this book, and how much, how troubled they were, even though publishing that book and writing that book directly contradicts that. That shows a lot of ambition, that shows focus, that shows a reason to live, your future focus. Is that there's a lot in that. But this is the entity this is the beast system. Nobody's questioning that. And they're not supposed to question it, because this is how they engage in stealing from you. This is what the entity tried to do to me. Now, with regard to what I'm looking at on YouTube, I'm looking at that which this entity committed against me. The entity that's stalking by the Ontario Police Department, which you heard in this podcast tonight. That's the same entity that's committed a series of kidnappings. The kidnappings are there because that's the only way that they can create a relationship with me. The relationship is based on the criminal activity of that agency. The relationship is one that is serving to defame my character. While the entity is engaging in kidnapping upon stalking me, just like what you heard tonight, harassing me and stalking me, threatening, psychologically torturing me in concert with the gang members who are the people of the state and the gang members of the Ontario International Airport, who together share in repeatedly kidnapping me over a term of years. While they've also been engaged in what is defaming my character, such as referring to me, calling me a drug addict, saying I'm a prostitute, saying that I am putting myself on the internet and showing my nude body, while they are vagina monitors, obsessing, salivating, masturbating, and engaging in their group sex rituals while they are watching me inside of my home, while also gang stalking me at the same time. Sitting around watching me on cameras, footage that's being viewed in other parts of the world, while they are also profiting off of it. And this is surveillance that is indeed underway. Yes, it is indeed surveillance that is underway. The entities engaging in this conduct through the very demons that you heard of the Ontario Police Department, those gang members, engaged in also defaming my character. Criminal defamation is that which precedes what is a conspiracy to murder you. A murder that's committed by an entity, by the government, who is speaking through the people of the state, who are baboons that get on social media platforms and defame your character, just pull things out of the sky, all right, pull things out of their bottom, and in order to defame you before they kill you, before they kidnap you, before they successfully have you defamed in order to be kidnapped. It is the direct evidence of premeditation for murder committed by that entity that is in fact gang stalking you. That's all state action. All right, so there is no controversy. There's no mystery regarding whether the government is gang stalking me. Check. The entities engaged in what is criminally defaming me. That is relevant for what is premeditation for murder. The entity has conspired my murder, and it is proven through the fact that the government is gang stalking me in the first place. The government that you heard stalking me tonight by helicopter, okay, and by commercial plane. But this morning when I'm listening to the content, this is an entity that is very much triggered, as I've shown as a history regarding my evidence of the entity targeting me based on what it is I'm doing online, whatever it is that I'm looking at, that the entity would rather me, they're stalking by helicopter while I'm looking at this video about prosecuting police officers for stealing candy bars from that. They're triggered by that, and they'll start flying in circles over the apartment. Okay, this is the entity that's engaging in what is monitoring my content, monitoring whatever it is that I'm consuming on my device. And the entity is also doing so this morning while I'm looking at this TikTok video, and it is relevant to what this entity has committed. This entity has defamed my character. You're talking about falsely, maliciously asserting egregious allegations, things that are far from me, things that have no part in even my history, things that I would never and have never committed, and that which I don't even know anything about. And I've never been questioned about it, never been interrogated, never been accused to my face, okay? But this is the entity that's engaged, and I'm including it in my public investigation because this is an entity that is, again, it's relevant that the entity is gang stalking me while you're making malicious assertions about my character. This is an entity that is seeking to come to a head with regard to how those criminal acts work together in sync. All right. It's the entity that engaged in defaming my character and doing so while they are publishing this evidence, publishing this defamation on the venue of the internet. And the entity is engaging in that while they are gang stalking at the same time. And as the entity is this morning stalking by commercial plane, they begin immediately stalking minute by minute by minute by plane activity. And that's what you're going to hear next. Regarding what is the current purpose. The entity is gang stalking, monitoring, surveilling me. So everything that I stated, you're not just looking at me, the fact that they're stalking me, you're also looking at what is it that I'm talking about? Who is it that I'm referring to? What is it that I published as of late? Because what the entity is doing, the way in which the entity is doing it is all being exposed. If they're gang stalking through an Amazon Prime plane, how many videos regarding Amazon Prime did I publish? Because that's the tactic of the enemy. The entity, it is the enemy as well, but the entity will engage in that while they are monitoring the evidence. They're very foolish. All right. They're always, and that's the character of Satan. He is always telling you what he's doing. If you're paying attention, he's always telling you what he's doing. Even while he falsely accuses you of something, he's admitting to you what he did. Okay. So the entity that's accused me of murder. Oh no, I'm no murderer. But somebody is. And it's not me. All right. The entity that's accused me of being a child molester, a pedophile. Oh no, that's not me. That's not me at all. But there definitely is the stench of a pedophile, more than one pedophiles. Absolutely. Absolutely. The entity has engaged in what is falsely accusing me of that which they are guilty of. And that's what Satan does, by the way. Satan is not creative at all. He does not think off the cuff, off the top, and make up some. What he's doing, Satan is a spirit, okay? So he uses people. So Satan will accuse you of that which he is guilty of, all right? Satan is an out and out liar, unabashed, okay? Shameless and convincing. And the reason why it's so convincing is because Satan is monitoring you. So Satan is all up in your energy, aware of what it is that you find believable, facial expressions, getting a read for how you are reacting to them, very much engaged in highly deceptive conduct. Okay. And that's the demon possessed that are engaging in that. They are indeed psychopaths. Okay. So, the entity that's monitoring on my device this morning, they do so while I begin looking at this video that showed up in my YouTube feed. And that's also relevant because we are under surveillance on our devices. That which comes up in the feed is that which is telling, okay, that's not a 100% surefire formula. However, you are under surveillance and the entity is engaged in monitoring you. And that which is coming up in my feed is relevant to what this entity has committed against me. And as I look at this video about a TikToker, a TikTok tarot card reader who is defaming someone, and then there is a $10 million judgment in that victim's favor, the entity is immediately triggered by this and starts stalking by commercial plane, one plane after another after another. And this is what I'm documenting. And I wanted to expound upon what it is that you are picking up. You are always learning. This is what you need to know about this system. This is what you need to know about the demon possessed. This is what you need to know about criminal monitoring, stalkers, demons. Okay, and everything that is under surveillance, it is including your genitalia. You do not have any privacy. You are under surveillance when you're driving on the roads and the highways, when you get on an airplane and fly on and take off somewhere in the sky, when you're in your home, even when you go up to the attic, you're under surveillance. They're monitoring everything, everyone, everywhere. This is why you have the fake sun. This is why you have the engineer light, all the examples, the thousands of examples that I've given you regarding engineer light and possible light activity. The demon possessed fill this country and Satan is keeping everyone under surveillance. This is the beast system. All right. And so to that end, the entity starts engaging in psychopathic pacing at a higher level of frequency, one plane after another, and doing so as I begin viewing this video. And it's a reference to what this entity committed against me, because this is exactly what has happened. The entity has defamed my character, accused me of murder, accused me of horrendous things regarding how I live my life, like I'm a prostitute and I'm a drug addict. And by the way, this has nothing to do with why you would be able to steal my money and property outside of my presence in a court that is inherently outside of the appropriate and legitimate operations of that courthouse, ruled by the California rules of court, or whatever courthouse. If it's outside of California, it's a violation of my due process rights. It's my property. It's under my name. It's bequeathed to me, and I was not there. And claiming mental illness in the absence of that mentally ill person is equally a violation of due process. It will never make it legitimate, ever. It will not. But this is what the entity engaged in. This is what the entity, this tactic is, and that's because the entity is corrupt. Okay, they are inherently corrupt. You rely on that absence of any logic whatsoever. That's just because they're corrupt. Okay, well, we'll just paint her as crazy, and that's how we'll get by with that. Okay, so this is the entity that's engaging in that P.O.C. Defamation is not a cure. Defamation also is never going to result from you gang stalking someone else. The P.O.C. also establishes that. And criminal defamation is distinct from the actual practice of medicine and, as you see, the practice of law. Okay. The entity is engaging in this P.O.C. and they're doing so while they are keeping all of our devices under surveillance, and these social media platforms are sharing in criminal surveillance, and the ways in which they are targeting content is also, it's actionable based on the purpose of what it is I have clearly stated I am using social media for, and it should have compelled and motivated these large, powerful, influential platforms to help the little guy like myself, because this is exactly what they put on their websites, in their guidelines, their community guidelines, and the purpose, all right, of the entire platform altogether, and what they aspire to do, and how they want you to, enhance your experience. It's a bunch of baloney, because when someone is pleading for help and stating that they are under surveillance, which these platforms are sharing in, they're gang stalkers in California. Okay, so they're engaging in what is ignoring that, facilitating and enabling that unlawful threat, and making money while doing so. All theft of my content, all removal of my content is an unlawful threat posed to my life, and it is actionable in court. And so these are the things that I was speaking of this morning. And after this, the reason why I'm repeating it is because, like I stated before, it was full of static. You couldn't hear anything. And so you will hear the tail end of that discussion. And that encapsulates, I just went over it right now, but that essentially encapsulates what I was discussing. The fact that it was a TikTok video, and it's about the entity is immediately triggered. And that is relevant to you. Why do you care? Because you need to know that you are under surveillance. That is showing real-time knowledge. And it's an unlawful threat that while you're under surveillance on our devices, while we're under surveillance online, and the entity is engaging what is threatening my life in real time while I'm in use of these social media platforms. And nobody is telling us that we're under surveillance. No one's telling us that, except for me. I am, okay? But I'm enforcing my rights in a court, and this is the court. And YouTube is not the only one, but it has interfered with these proceedings, if you will, interfering with an ongoing active case, which is also an unlawful threat to my life. And whether they believe it or not, or recognize it or not, they don't have the authority, the right to do that. They are literally the defendant. All right, so you're not going to go in federal court and tell everybody in the court, no, hold on, no, we're not doing this. No, yes, we are. And the unlawful interference with that ongoing procedure, which is necessary because the government is the criminal, okay, because you have corrupt companies that are sharing in surveillance and not exposing that, rather they're profiting from it, it's absolutely necessary. And the ways in which you seek to disrespect that and trample over it, I'm going to charge you for it. And I'm going to prosecute. You're going to find yourself in a cell. Tread carefully. I am telling you, tread carefully. You're on the wrong side of history. It's very serious, actually. It is domestic terrorism. So the entity is engaging in psychopathic pacing by planes, which is what you'll hear as I document it, and becoming more and more pronounced, if you will, and doing so as I begin viewing this video about, and it's on a subject matter that this very entity committed against me, while it has sought to and is fully engaged in still conspiring my murder. Defaming my character is the evidence of premeditated murder. Okay, you are planning on committing murder. You have sought out and conspired to commit murder. You are acting in furtherance of committing murder, both by your defamation and also by the gang stalking. Those two components coexist. Okay, and the entity is doing it on the internet where it is published. All right, and the venue where it's published online is sharing in that surveillance as well. And there's evidence that shows that this is the P.O.C. All right, it is, like I stated, April 1st, 2026. This is P.O.C. To, like I stated, what it is that I'm viewing on my device at the moment that I'm viewing it. And it's based on the criminal conduct that this entity committed. Defaming my character and doing so as this entity that is stalking by the airport, stalking as a city, stalking as the people of the state, have conspired to steal my money, have engaged in already doing that, have delayed giving me my money back while I still remain subject to this conduct, while they're keeping my evidence under surveillance, seeking to get away with and removing evidence of what they've already committed. Like, what is it that you actually stated in court in order to get a fake power of attorney in the first place, to get a fake conservatorship in the first place? What's the name of the so-called doctor claiming to have relationship with me, have any sort of access to me that would be outside of you kidnapping me? Targeting. It's directly correlating. While the entity is gang stalking, which is proven, and any doctor that would claim that they have any sort of diagnosis, any sort of examination, any sort of test, any sort of opinion about me, they're lying. This is the targeting system. This is the beast system. That's directly relevant. While this gang stalking system coexists, that's a gang stalking medical professional, and they are going to prison. Jose Munoz comes to mind with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, engaging what is defaming my character, claiming that you are giving your opining about my condition while I'm kidnapped by the Sheriff's Department, a bunch of demons that are monitoring inside of that West Valley Detention Center, where the entity kept the fake son. And I went on ahead and showed you that during summer of 2025, that fake son that's over me at West Valley Detention Center, that is Satan's facility. That is the beast system that's maintained at West Valley Detention Center. They are a bunch of vagina monitoring deputies. That's an un-American oxymoron. They're gang stalkers. They're murderers. They're kidnappers. They're liars. These are criminals that are going into law enforcement to get away with that criminal activity, to engage in it. Okay, this is P.O.C. And while criminal surveillance is unconstitutional, this is criminal activity committed by the government. It's criminal. It's unlawful. All right, and it's public corruption while the people of the state are engaging in criminal surveillance. This is public corruption. It is unlawful. And everything that they're doing pursuant to surveillance, they're murdering people, they're stealing from people, they're setting people up, and they're doing so by abusing, like what Jose Munoz did. This is a corrupt medical professional, and he's not by himself, because this is what Arrowhead Regional Medical Center serves. This is what San Antonio Regional Hospital serves. They committed kidnappings. These people, you're going to prison. You're going to federal prison. And the entity does you an injustice. I just want to be clear. It's impossible for you to protect each other. Because while I play tapes of the government stalking me plane after plane after plane after plane after plane, while I prosecute the airport and the police, the gang stalking medical professionals are going to prison. This is how that system works together in concert. While then you have copycats on the internet that are taking the information, the truth that I'm speaking to you about, what they tried to stop me from exposing to you, and they're putting it in terms of some sort of space galaxy, some sort of Confederate ongoing galactical universe where they are floating down from the stars, and they're siphoning up this nonsense. Christ is coming back. Okay? Bottom line, he's coming back. He is given a warning. Even this is an act of mercy that these demons are being federally prosecuted, because perhaps in prison they will turn over. Okay? They will relinquish. Okay? That which they don't control, because you're going to burn in hell. You're going straight there. And the more that you're engaging in this, the more that you are demonstrating the fact that you really have no other purpose being here. These are a bunch of zombies that are pacing around in the U.S. They're engaged in monitoring. All that the U.S. government is concerned with, all that Satan is doing is surveilling you. That's what's actually going on. It's not about getting through school. It's not about getting through high school. It's not about getting through college. That's why they can't read. It's never been about that. It's not about the programs and the teachers don't get paid enough. They're engaged in surveillance. That's why the fake son is over me at the kindergarten school. That's why they're monitoring with the little kids, via the kids. That's why they weaponize children against somebody that would never even engage in sexual violence against a child. This is how much they care about the education of children. They're gang stalking with them. It's all about surveillance and deceiving you about that fact. I want to make sure that that's clear. This entity has lost this case, okay? This is the prosecution of the beast system that is going to become more and more violent and obvious. And that's because it's been proven to be in existence. And they did that by targeting me, which the entity they were supposed to do that, and I was supposed to expose it. But really, they should have left me alone. They should have left me alone, because everybody's business is out now. Everyone's. This is P.O.C. It's currently 7:45 a.m. And it's April 1st, 2026. I am at the side of the Ovid Family Community Library capturing the fake son. Remember, C. Gerber is here 3 hours from now. 10, 10:17 a.m. under the fake sun, giving me a letter from the admitted terrorists of the Ovitt Family Community Library, making false allegations. I'm here in the evening, walking out of the Ovitt Family Community Library at 4 p.m. on Sundays. The fake sun is still here. I'm here after 6 p.m. On Fridays, where the fake sun is still here. Documented that. I'm here where the Ontario Police Department are flying over the top of my head while this fake sun is still here at every hour of the day. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, into 7 p.m. The fake sun is still here. That's where the entity is stalking as an airport and monitoring my device on the venue of the internet, which is evidence that is the social media platforms are also engaging in surveillance. In other words, this is what it is. The P.O.C. shows it. Where the government is stalking you, that includes on the internet, keeping you under surveillance on your devices. That entity is sharing in that pattern of conduct. So while you're on the internet and you're under surveillance, what you consume online, what you're doing, what you're accessing on your devices, that platform, that website, they are sharing and surveilling you. Google is engaged in surveillance. That's why when I access Google, when I publish evidence onto YouTube, I'm subject to terrorism by the gang stalking police. And that shall be actionable in a court of law. YouTube has been making money off of it. Sharing in what is targeting me by removing my evidence, targeting my evidence in any way where my life is under threat, including while you target my content, even outside of the bounds of what you claim to be the purposes of your platform. Because nothing about the fake sun, whether it's real or fake, that's not even the point. Nothing about the light source in the sky is violating anything regarding YouTube's platform. They're a third party. They've been engaged in years of targeting, and I'm going to prosecute them. This is P.O.C. It is currently, and they're not doing anything other than what everyone else is doing online. This is massive surveillance that's underway in the U.S. And it's not a secret. This is the beast system. And it's not staying a secret. It never was going to. The entity sought to murder me. They repeatedly kidnapped me. And you have people who are suicidal like Mike LORENZ. Where do you think this fool is going? He's going to prison. He is going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. It's 7:48 a.m. under the fake sun. This is the exact same thing you saw last night, stalking, flying over the Ontario City Hall, where I'm not going to hear any planes from the airport. And from the airport at the Ontario City Hall, Ontario Senior Center, Ovitt Family Community Library, there is no plane activity. Certainly that's going to create any sort of public nuisance, no noise. You're not hearing the planes taking off. Those demons are flying here. This is the second one in the last 90 seconds. And turning right here. The entity's covering it up under the clouds. That's why you can hear it. This is P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, 5:22 a.m. Not flying over the Ontario Town Square, not flying over the property, not even going and continuing over the building of the senior citizen apartments, and engaging in the 5:22 a.m. U-turns, the joy rides from the airport, the tours of the specific portion of the city where the library is to go back to the airport. This is psychopathic pacing, and the entity is stalking and monitoring me at 5:22 a.m. This is surveillance by the city of Ontario. This is P.O.C. It is currently 5:23 a.m. All right, the entity monitoring by Union Pacific and by the airport that is stalking. And this is an entity that is, again, I'm documenting an ongoing insistence, an ongoing defiance, an ongoing determination to engage in stalking someone that has already proven that you're stalking, including in the deranged, cooperative, demonic ways that the city of Ontario are. They're doing so at the Ovitt Family Community Library, and what that also means is that the people of the state are up at 5:38 a.m. stalking. That's automatically speaking to relevant positioning by the people of the state that are at the Civic Center stalking right now. And they're doing so at the C Street turn circle. It's not traffic. They're doing so at Euclid Avenue, going to Wells Fargo, means of stalking, not traffic, not means of legitimate business. The entity's doing so while you are looking at the government engaging in that pattern of conduct. Clear stalking. And it's demonic.
And it's also demonic with regard to the train activity, the entity going out of that way to create that activity around me, because the demon-possessed people of the state are around me. P.O.C. This is the population that is being prosecuted in all regards while they're gang stalking at 5:38 a.m. This is speaking to mental illness. This is P.O.C. at the Ovid Family Community Library. All right, this is Two Planes stalking, 6:08 and 6:09 a.m. As I replay the video of the entity stalking by plane, was playing the audio was playing through my headphones, so you couldn't hear it. As I replay that, and the demons are convinced, oh, you can't hear it. Seconds later, while I'm playing it, they are doing it again. That's what's happening right now at 6:09 a.m. These are stalkers, and this is the ongoing stream of stalking by planes that are being maintained at the Ovid Family Community Library, where they are inside of the Page One Cafe, by the way, stalking. All right, you are stalking in the path while the government is maintaining that plane activity in relevant position. The entities engaging in this while they're stalking at the C Street turn circle, and they are stalking on Euclid Avenue, traffic in other words. This is where the entity is maintained second by second planes. All right, this is the entity that's doing so while they're confident that it can't be heard on my phone. These are the kind of details that are going to serve to prosecute the terrorists that are gang stalking while I'm in Ontario. It's currently 6:10 a.m. P.O.C.
Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes, and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C., and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state. And it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state.
Six 11 a.m. This is indeed psychopathic pacing. And they're stalking somebody that's literally keeping record of it. So this is indeed psychopathic. The stalker is not accomplishing their purpose. Their purpose is to stalk me because they are obsessed stalkers, which is why they're going to be committed. The people of the state are in the path, stalking in relevant position to the senior center on their bike. This is in the engineer light. These are the demons that are stalking with the government. Okay, P.O.C. It's moments later, 6:11 a.m. and now it's 6:12 a.m. Now here's a visual of what they've been doing audibly the entire time while a demon is visibly, conspicuously stalking with the government, doing so at what is 6:13 a.m. P.O.C. They're stalking on the inside of the Page One Cafe as well. And And these are the demon-possessed that are engaging in stalking you and furtherance of murdering you in your face. This is the government that is stalking. And any employee at any location is stalking because that's maintaining presence, conspicuously maintaining surveillance. While they're under the guise of the employee, they open at 7, but they're here at 6 o'clock in the morning. While they're typically, I've captured this demon in the Stater Brothers gang stalking me before 7 a.m. while I'm there using the bathroom and subject to vagina monitoring. Page One Cafe employees are gang stalking, but they're here early today for the psychopathic pacing of the Ontario International Airport, crossing paths with the demon-possessed that are surrounding on the opposite side in the engineered light. This is P.O.C. See the double shadows? This is a demon that's engaging in what is stalking in the path. Alrighty, that's the pattern of conduct. These are the mentally ill. These are vagina monitors, and they fill up the Ontario Senior Center. Okay, flying over the Ontario City Hall. This is public corruption. Engaging in your aerobics while you're gang stalking another person, that's a reference to the mental illness. This is stalking, though. This is also letting you know the significance of merely presence in the path. Okay, presence in the bathrooms where sex offenders are engaging in that as well. Engaging in aerobics while they're monitoring my vagina. You're getting a visual of what are the demon possessed. This is P.O.C. It is currently, this is the conduct of, I want to be clear, the government that is engaged in surveillance. It is 6:14 a.m. This is the entity that is engaged in psychopathic pacing. This is what I've been documenting, and the entity's been hiding the visual. There are no planes taking off from the airport over here. And this is the city hall where they're rising in elevation. There's no takeoffs over here. This is P.O.C. And this is plane after plane after plane, second after second after second. And this is the people of the state. This is an entity, not an individual, that's engaging what is coming close. I'm not focused on you. I'm not stalking you. I'm stretching and I'm engaging in aerobics in engineer light where the government is maintaining commercial planes over the Ontario Civic Center. P.O.C. There's no plane traffic from the airport over here. And there's also no constitutional protection for the gang stalkers who are the people of the state. They are going to prison. They engage in surveillance inside of the libraries, which is also the prosecution of the government as I've shown it. This is P.O.C. It is currently 6:15 a.m. Stalking again by plane while I'm uploading the video. And this is conspicuous stalking by the people of the state. The senior center is not open. This is stalking in the path with where I'm located. This is ongoing surveillance. Excuse me. Excuse me. Would you happen to know what time it is? Pay attention. This is engineer light.
6:20.
This is a gang stalker. Just want to be clear. This is why the government and the entity, the Ontario Police, are being disbanded. This is violence. Stalking a woman in the dark. Senior center is not open, and the senior center is full of what are gang stalkers as well. That's what you need to know. The elderly, they're flying over the elderly citizens complex, and this is the demon that's over here in engineer light engaging in aerobics. This is called activity creation. He's a vagina monitor. All right, he's a co-conspirator of murder, and the government's flying over this location, and this is where he's particularly going to be in alignment with my path. Okay, that's P.O.C. That's obsessive stalking. 6:18 a.m. The entity is stalking by plane as I'm uploading the video right now. So I'm multitasking on my phone so you can see the entity that is indeed monitoring my device with the people of the state that come into the path to engage in that direct presence. I got up from sitting down behind this. The moment that I get up is when they're visually then stalking. They're creating more activity based on what I'm doing, and they don't care that they're being exposed for being stalkers. This is the entity that's engaging in the beast system. This is the surveillance system. Okay, and I've exposed it. They're being federally prosecuted, however, and the entity is going to be subject to federal prison for the gang violence that the people of the state are engaging in because it is currently unconstitutional and the government was acting like they're maintaining what are our privacy and our constitutional rights. This is why terrorists who commit murder with the people engaging in aerobics in the engineer light while the government is clearly stalking with them, that's the mentally ill psychopaths that are gang stalking, and this is the beast system. This is P.O.C. It is currently 6:19 a.m. Alrighty, here's another gang stalker from the so-called Catholic Church that's gang stalking with the City of Ontario, maintaining plane activity, acting in sync. It's no mystery that at St. Paul or St. George, whatever the demons congregate under, the fake sun and the Ontario Police flying in circles over my head, terrorizing just like the members of that demonic entity that's calling itself a Catholic Church. Catholicism is state-organized religion, okay? That's why they're engaging in the pattern of conduct.
with the government's consent, subservient to the government system. They're vagina monitors that utilize what is religion to appear pious, and when you're pious, that's supposed to rebut. That's Satan that does that. That hides behind piety. With regard to, you will see piety plus the fake sun plus engineer of light plus stalking by Mike LORENZ, the Ontario Police Department, plus stalking by the Ontario International Airport, Alan D. WAPNER. The pious are going to be federally prosecuted. This is the entity stalking as I am publishing the evidence onto the Google Drive. It's currently 8:30 a.m. and I'm at the side of the Open Family Community Library. What you're also mindful of is this is the same walkway where both the gang stalking police department are pacing, where the gang stalking Securitas, she's here doing this at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, where the fake sun is still here, documenting that while I'm inside of the Open Family Community Library. This fake sun is still here, aimed onto me, and it's also pacing when the demons of the so-called City Hall, that's the public corruption, the city itself is engaged in surveillance. This is the beast system, and they're a bunch of demons. P.O.C. All right, stalking with the airport. This is the Ontario Chiropractic office at 718. I captured the fake sun over me March 25th. 7UDA 3539. This is Dr. Tara Marie. These are terrorists. They're unfit to be in the medical field. Dr. Jose Castaneda. Dr. Robert Steiskel. They're maintained through the means of a chiropractic office, which the people of the state, the government itself, is using as surveillance. Driving onto the property, doing so in sync with the government that's stalking by commercial plane right here. I also captured the fake sun set. American medical response while my shadow was appearing on this tree and the fake sun is reflecting off of this window. This is the gang stalkers that are targeting, and this is the facilitating venue, and this is the entity that is stalking under the fake sun. It's 8:44 a.m. The entity is maintaining the specific environment while I'm walking, and this is psychopathic pacing on the property. These are the entity that's going to be removed from the medical field. They're engaging in terrorism, and they are a threat to the public while they are terrorists who are demon-possessed, maliciously using even their practice, as you're seeing here, gang stalking further into murder, but you want to be a chiropractor as well. Make money off of it and be viewed as that as such, okay? They also want to be viewed in one way. These are the demon-possessed. They're stalking with the Ontario International Airport that's coming up the street, farther away from the airport. Gang stalking. This is gang violence. Gang members have no business in any part of the medical field, okay? This is the P.O.C. These are the demon-possessed vagina monitors. Sex offenders have no business in the medical field, okay? Stalkers have no business in the medical field. This is the P.O.C. It is currently 8:45 a.m. This is criminal summoning at Olive and Euclid. License 7NYK641 at 278 Euclid, California. This is the city of Upland. The gang members at the intersection of Olive and Euclid Avenue, which is the neighborhood I walked through, and documented their license plates and their house numbers, and their gang stalking under the fake sun that's moving north. It's moving up in the direction north, which is what it's doing when I come from Upland in the evening, and it's moving along the same street where Amazon Prime, for example, is stalking with American Medical Response, who's engaged in criminal summoning at 8th Street and Euclid Avenue right now at 9:13 a.m. And they're stalking under this license 9 Barry Sam Xavier 690. American Medical Response is going to be federally prosecuted for surveillance and furtherance of murder, and doing so maliciously under the guise of being in the medical field, even operating ambulances, which they are poised to commit murder, and doing so, and kidnapping, which American Medical Response has done. This is P.O.C. It is 9:14 a.m. All right, this is sexual assault and battery. The entity engaged in what is molestation at J Street, 7 Yolanda Edwards Zebra 445. They are stalking at every intersection, and also as I'm walking on the street, these demons that are stalking at the intersection, and I'm being touched with impossible light in the middle of the street when it's dark, these are demons that are monitoring this device. This is what the entity is doing by stalking by airplane as well, monitoring my devices while I'm being touched with light that's flying in the air. License 5JIH291 or 5JTH291. Those are 2 Latina females. P.O.C. These are sex offenders. License 9CXZ227, 9GUE912. And they're stalking as an entity. Everybody in these homes, everybody in the neighborhood, which my evidence also already shows, they're all engaged in sexual violence together. They're all engaged in the conspiracy to murder together. 7KJH992, sexual assault and battery, conspiracy to murder. Ongoing harassment and terrorism while they're stalking with light, which is mentally ill behavior shared by a mentally ill population. Okay, mental illness hiding behind a company name. Criminal activity hiding behind a company name. Stalking with light. That's what demons do. Demons that are monitoring. All right, this is what the entity is doing at J Street. I want to document that because it's the same entity at I Street. The entity that's stalking by the Ontario International Airport at the opening of the 10 freeway.
The entities engaging in their bidding. This is surveillance on the roads and the highways, where they commit murder, by the way, and then collect money from insurance policies. This is the entity that's monitoring. Stalking with impossible light. No turn on the street over there. You see how these vehicles aren't blinded by that headlight? None of them are, these are demons. That's supernatural. And their psychopathic pacing is going to be noted with regard to having them committed. Because that's where the people of the state are going. Every gang stalker that I document, you're going to be subject to mental examinations. Your mental illness is going to be a part of what is public record as well. You don't have any HIPAA provisions, any HIPAA protections with regard to terrorism. That's a national security threat, and it's criminal activity. And it's also relevant to mental illness, which is clear. It's not closeted. It's not a secret either. It's a pattern of conduct. This is P.O.C. This is my shadow that's in front of me. Impossible light activity, stalker. Here's my shadow right here in front of me again. Impossible light activity, stalkers. Sex offenders touching all over me while I'm walking. This is speaking to targeting. None of them are strangers. These are stalkers, and their mentally ill system is going to have them committed and put in prison, especially when they like to engage in stalking with the police. Prison. They like to engage in stalking with the airport. Prison. They like to engage in stalking you and speaking in any harassing, threatening manner. They like to systematically, which the people say doing all of the above, they're going to prison. That's what justice requires. Terrorists are going to be treated like the enemies that they are. These are the enemies inside of the United States, and they are the mentally ill. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:48 p.m. and this is impunity. And that's okay because I documented for you all to witness the addresses of all these terrorists along all this is Euclid Avenue, but it's a reference to the entire city of Ontario that's being prosecuted. P.O.C.